Hey guys, it's Mark from Migraine Professional, and today I'm going to be answering the question, is coffee good or bad for migraines and headaches? And so where I kind of want to begin is by understanding that there's two types of individuals. And so there's the healthy individual. They take in stress, they can detoxify it, they can recover from it, they bounce back from it very well, and the stress leaves, it's gone, it's done with. They bounce back really well. And then there's the stressed individual, or the sick individual, or the individual that already has a lot on their plate. There are already a number of different stressors going on. There's already a number of systems that are kind of competing for the energy of your body, the resources of your body, and they don't bounce back as well. So it takes nutrients to kind of deal with any kind of input, any kind of stressor. It takes nutrients, energy, resources. So in these stressed individuals, when you add another stimulus, it taxes the body even more. So we kind of have to be careful. We have to make sure that we're approaching this from a place of health. We don't want to make sure that we're not adding stress to an already stressed individual. And so when we're kind of talking about coffee, we want to make sure that we don't discount any individual's experience. There are many people that don't do well with coffee, and there are many people that swear that coffee helps them and they need coffee, and coffee does well by them. But how we want to kind of understand it, the first piece that we want to understand is our cortisol to DHEA ratio. And so cortisol is our stress hormone. In the morning, it rises, and that's what wakes us up. It gives us energy, it controls inflammation, but it's also part of our stress reaction. So whenever we go into fight or flight mode, whenever we go into a sort of emotional stress response, or there's some kind of fear, or our safety is threatened, our cortisol will rise. But the balance of that cortisol and the balance of it with DHEA is basically, it's the mother of our hormones, especially our sex hormones. And so the balance of the two is very crucial for sort of health in the body. Because if cortisol gets too high and DHEA isn't there to balance it, we don't have the hormones to deal with the stress. So if cortisol gets too high, we're very stressed and we're not dealing with it properly, we're not processing it properly. And so one of the things that coffee does is it changes our cortisol to DHEA ratio. Because coffee is a stimulant, it's increasing our stress response, it's increasing the sort of amount of stimulation in the body, and cortisol is synonymous with stimulation. So whenever you're kind of taking in a stimulant, you are increasing that cortisol. So you have to be really careful with your DHEA. So the next piece is our natural rhythms. And so our body has a natural rhythm. In the morning, our cortisol goes up, and then in the evening, when the sun sets, our cortisol goes down. So as the sun rises, our cortisol goes up. As the sun sets, our cortisol goes down. And so in the morning, our cortisol comes up and our energy comes up with it. And at night, as our cortisol goes down, our body winds down and it gets ready for sleep. It gets ready to repair and rejuvenate, and our brain shrinks so it can detoxify, and a number of different processes turn on while we sleep because of low cortisol. So it's kind of the two sides of the coin. So we want to make sure that whenever we're kind of talking about our natural rhythms, we take into account that cortisol is a key player here. And so we want cortisol to spike in the morning, and then we want it to set in the evening. If that's not happening, we are not properly repairing at night, and we're going to be fatigued in the daytime. So if our cortisol instead, if it spikes at nighttime, this often happens with sort of adrenal fatigued people, so at night, cortisol spikes up, and then you can't sleep, you have insomnia, you think you're a night owl, and then you finally fall asleep after midnight, you wake up, you don't feel rested, and then you're really tired all day, and then that's kind of rinse and repeat, the cycle continues. So we want to make sure that we're maintaining our natural rhythms. And so if we are sort of using coffee as a stimulant too late, we know this, if we use it too late, our cortisol is shooting up and we're disturbing those natural rhythms. And then the next piece that kind of affects our migraines and headaches is that coffee is a diuretic. So it's kind of said that for every cup of coffee, you need 2 cups of water to make up for the water loss. And so diuretic means that it causes you to pee out more water. And so not only does it tamper with our hydration levels, but it also tampers with our mineral levels. Because for our body to sort of pee out, it has to almost like sacrifice minerals. So our key minerals like calcium, magnesium, zinc, we always want to make sure that we're maintaining those in migraine and headache individuals, because those are key minerals for the brain's functioning, for the body's functioning, for the gut's functioning. And so coffee messes with that too. And then, of course, it's incredibly important to understand that, especially if you look at autoimmune diets, coffee is one of the foods that are taken out because coffee is often found to be sensitive. So as we know, food sensitivities are one of the biggest players in migraines and headaches. And so you want to make sure that if you are sensitive to coffee, you may actually crave it. So if you're burnt out, what will happen is that your sensitivity will actually cause a cortisol reaction and a dopamine reaction from drinking coffee, which will actually make you feel good. And you'll think, oh, I need this, and then you'll develop this craving to it. But actually what it's doing is it's spiking up your dopamine, your feel-good hormones, because of the immune reaction, because you're sensitive to it. So you want to make sure you're always really careful with food sensitivities, especially with coffee. And so a couple things that we can kind of do to sort of change the reaction that coffee has on our bodies, kind of temper it, especially if we find that we're getting really jittery from coffee. The first one is just have it in the morning. So your cortisol spiking in the morning, you can have some coffee in the morning. It goes with that cortisol spike, it supports it. What you don't want to do is have it right before bed. Even if you feel like you can have a coffee and sleep, your body does not feel like that. Your physiology does not feel like that, because caffeine has a half-life of 6 hours in the body generally. And so even if you have 100 milligrams at, let's say, 6 p.m., at 12 p.m., you're still at 50 milligrams circulating. So you want to be really careful. That is stimulating your physiology. It's releasing stress hormones. It's preventing you from getting good quality sleep that repairs your brain, keeps your brain strong and resilient. The next one is meals. So whenever you can, you want to kind of have it with a meal. That helps kind of temper it and space it out, even it out a bit. Same with fat. So it's really common now, the bulletproof coffee, having a coffee with some grass-fed butter, some MCT oil, some ghee, some coconut oil, some kind of source of fat that slows down the burn of the coffee. And the next one, of course, organic. We know coffee is very sprayed. It's one of the most sprayed crops. So we want to make sure that we're getting an organic coffee. And there's a couple, so instead of having coffee, I mean, I know coffee is one of the most popular drugs in the world, but instead of having coffee, some of the other really good substitutes are matcha green tea. Matcha has a lot of L-theanine, so it kind of balances out that jitteriness of coffee. Same with tea, yerba mate, and cacao. But of course, these are all very stimulating as well, so you want to be careful if you're sensitive to stimulants. If you have hormonal problems, adrenal problems, fatigue issues, you want to be careful with anything that's stimulating. So let me know in the comments below, does coffee affect you? What do you find? How do you find coffee changes the way you think, feel, function, and how your migraines are? Thanks. Hey, it's Mark from Migraine Professional. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe in the bottom left corner so that others can find this information as well. If you want to learn more about migraines than you've ever known before and how to deal with them, make sure to go to our website. Thanks.